Okay, we're going to hop into the judicial candidates because a lot of these things come down to the judges. I like to say it's all about the judges, but when you have a dispute, it ends up with the judges. And a lot of folks close their eyes and check a box, and they really do not know who the judges are. So we, meaning KGLH and the wonderful Stevie Wonder, want to educate the folks about the judges, and what better way than to invite them in. We're offering equal time to any and all judicial candidates. So now we are going to speak with the opponent of one of the candidates we had in last week. You'll recall we had George Turner Jr. in last week, and he spoke about being in the unit. Well, you can pull the podcast up to get his side, but we'll speak with his opponent, Stephen Napolitano, who's running for seat 39. Mr. Napolitano was a 5-time Manhattan Beach mayor/council member. He's been an attorney for 30 plus years. And 25. Okay, I gave you an extra 5. An administrative hearing officer for cities and counties throughout the state. Good morning, Mr. Napolitano. Thanks for coming in. Am I butchering your name?
No, you're saying it perfectly. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me in.
I appreciate you coming in. You survived the primaries. That was kind of rough, right?
I did. Judicial races are just different, like you said, and they are so important, like you said as well. And what part of this campaign that I'm trying to get out to folks is that judges matter. I think over the last couple of years, certainly people have seen from the Supreme Court down to the Superior Court how much judges can affect their daily lives.
Yes, that's true. Now, you've been it says mayor/council member for Manhattan Beach, yes?
Yes, and mayor's a rotating position, so you're elected to city council. I've been on there 5 terms now, served actually 6 terms as mayor, but I've been there. I was 92 to 2005, and I was 12 years with Supervisor Don Kanabe as his senior deputy in his office, serving communities throughout LA County. And then I returned to council in 2017, and now I'm wrapping up my 2nd or 5th term, 2nd consecutive now, from 2017 to 2020. 2024, I'm termed out.
So you're in a unique position that's unlike the candidates that we've spoken with in the past couple of weeks, because most of them are either public defenders or district attorney, deputy district attorneys.
I am not your traditional candidate, and I think that's a good thing. Certainly we've got lots of prosecutors as judges, and now we've got public defenders as judges, and I'm saying that we need folks with more diverse backgrounds than just that too, because that informs decision making. And for myself, as a nearly 25-year attorney, as an administrative law judge, hearing officer for cities and counties, 30 years in public service throughout LA County, I bring a different perspective than just doing one thing or another for several years. And one of those things is like I said, having that experience and knowing our communities, what the expectations are there, what their hopes are, and how to serve the people here for the last 30 years.
And when you say you bring diversity to this race, tell me, other than serving in Manhattan Beach, do you do anything else in any other parts of the county, or is it just South Bay?
As I said, I was senior deputy to Supervisor Kanabe. I was all across LA County, and still as a council member for Manhattan Beach, we work with cities throughout LA County together to advocate on behalf of different communities, and which include, of course, communities of color. And also 99% of my clients as a parole attorney, I work as a parole attorney. So I get the folks out that the public defenders couldn't keep from going in. And so I work with 99% of those folks are black and brown. And so in terms of diversity of experience, what I'm putting out there is the fact that I'm also a decision maker, not just an advocate for one side or another. I'm an advocate for my clients as a parole attorney, as an administrative law judge and hearing officer. I am a decision maker. As a council member, I'm a decision maker. So that's the diversity of experience and background. In terms of experience of representing communities of color, that's what I do. I do that on a daily basis with my clients.
Well, okay, so as a council member, there's not a huge black population in Manhattan Beach, correct?
No. As I said, though, I work with other communities. I work very closely with communities of color throughout LA County on issues that matter to all of us, issues of housing, issues of crime, issues of homelessness.
Sure. Now, tell me, you said most of the clients that you have, that you represent, on the parole board are folks of color. However, they're in the minority. Why do you think so many folks of color make up such a large population in custody? Why is that?
I think it's the laws. The laws that were passed in the 90s, the so-called Get Tough on Crime laws that were passed in the 90s, that incarcerated more folks. And that led to, there are potential biases from that time as well. The drug crimes that were prosecuted at that time and the sentences that went along with the mandatory sentences, that expanded the number of black and brown folks incarcerated. And so I think the pendulum's swinging back the other way, but then you have to find a middle ground there. And so, but the folks that I deal with, the lifers, for the most part, they are in prison for 15, 25 years for some of these things. And so I work with them to prepare them for their parole hearing, make sure they're taking the classes, the education, the anger management courses, the addiction courses, the mental health treatment that they need. I get them ready. I make sure that, and if they're not ready, I work with them on options on how they can improve their chances to get out the next time. And if not, then we go forward with the hearing. We appear before the judges at the parole panel, and I advocate on their behalf and work to get them out and get them second chances at life.
Good. Well, why do you want to leave that work? It seems like it's really worthwhile. Just got a little tired of it?
No, not tired at all. I love my job, but I also, again, at the end of last year, I was looking at new pathways, especially being termed out of city council. And I was thinking, how can I bring everything together? I've spent 30 years of my life making a difference in the communities of LA County. And I was thinking, how can I bring all my knowledge on the policy side of things, the legislative side of things, of working with folks, of working on issues of homelessness and working on issues of crime and housing and other matters. How can I bring that together with my legal career? And how can I bring with advocating for folks, getting them ready and giving people second chances and putting them on the right path? How can I bring that together? And I kept coming back to judge.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a powerful position. Tell me your thoughts. You mentioned homelessness. What are your thoughts about Governor Gavin Newsom kind of coming to LA and cleaning out some of the homeless encampments and having a real firm stance? Not mentioning our mayor by name, but implying that LA is not going to get money if they don't clean up.
Right, and that's a decision that came out of the Grants Pass decision of the Supreme Court and said, you can come in and clean things up, and you can cite and you can put people in jail if they are violating the codes of the city. And yes, Mr. Newsom, Governor Newsom, has taken a progressive, or I'll say, a position that he wants things happening yesterday. There might be some politics at play in that, and that's understood. But how I feel about it, each community has to make their decisions and what's right for them. We don't want to criminalize homelessness, but we also want to make sure that it's safe for people to walk down the street unimpeded on sidewalks, have access to the schools, kids walking by, elderly. We want to keep everybody safe. That includes the homeless. And in Manhattan Beach, we have had real success in getting people off the streets who come in homeless. We have had transients come and go. We always have had a certain amount, but we do a very vigorous outreach, try and get them into services and into housing, because it doesn't serve anyone to keep people in the streets.
So you mentioned that you get folks out on the parole panel when you represent them. What do you feel about not Gavin Gascon, but George Gascon's directives as they apply to the enhancements that he kind of took away from the prosecutors as a hammer? Any thoughts about those? Well,
I think that Mr. Gascon, I think some of the things he did by making just blanket policies on either the prosecution of misdemeanors or other matters, I think that you can't do a one-size-fits-all approach to crime. Crime is a case-by-case basis. And so when you talk about enhancements and things like that, the bigger problem that I've had and experienced with my clients is that a lot of them were just forced to take a plea.
Yes.
Or they felt forced to take a plea.
Yes.
And so the enhancements didn't matter as much as the public defender or the prosecutor said, okay, many of these cases settle and many go to plea and they don't go to trial. And when but the defendant is in there saying, well, geez, they're threatening me with 30 years in prison, or I can take 15. I'll take the 15, even though they either maybe weren't guilty or they could have faced a lesser sentence or a lesser charge. And so, I think a lot of people were caught up in that. I don't think that necessarily everyone, the folks that I represent, they never complain about the judge being too harsh on them. They complain about being forced to take a plea that they didn't feel was fair or should have been applied to them.
Now, did you mean to say the enhancements didn't matter or that they did matter? Because most folks were taking that plea because they were facing enhancements.
Yes. No, in that sense, they did matter, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they were faced with additional sentencing because of the enhancements. In terms of saying that this enhancement, again, it's a case-by-case basis. I think it's where appropriate. I don't think that enhancements should apply in every case, but should they apply in some cases? Sure.
Right. So you support Gascon's directives that he implemented?
What's that?
You support the directives that Gascon implemented?
No, I don't support Mr. Gascon's directives. I think that to say his directives were more than just that one thing, by the way. And so when you say his directives, on the whole, I don't. I think, again, a one-size approach to crime does not serve anyone well.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes would you think that you have to, when you have a ship so far out of whack, you might have to do some drastic measures to right that ship, and then it may be some rocky waters here and there. But listen, it was going way far for a long time, and maybe meaning Gascon, had to come in and do some things that the voters wanted, actually.
And that's why I said earlier in terms of the pendulum swinging, right? The pendulum swung too far one way, and then it swings too far to the other way. And I think that the reaction to Mr. Gascon, his polling, and some of the initiatives that are out there right now are meant to address the swings from one to the end. I'm still looking to find that balance in the middle. As judge, that's what I feel is important, is balance. I think that approaching things, again, I think that's the benefit of experience, where you're not just advocating for one side or another. You've been a decision maker that can see both sides of things and make the appropriate decision for that case. Cases are individual. You're not making a blanket decision as a judge on all cases. They're one by one. Every person is an individual. Every situation is different. And that's what I'm bringing to this, is a balanced approach, pragmatic approach.
And what would you say your biggest gift is to the bench? What would you say that would be to the voters? Why should they choose you?
Again, that balance, the pragmatic approach I have based on the experience. My experience informs me on many sides, not just one side or another.
Okay. Well, I'd like to know some of your thoughts about, there are some propositions, some hot button. I saw that too, some hot button.
Yes, there's something flying around me right now.
Well, he loves the way you smell. Okay, so Proposition 36, we talked about it a little bit last week, and we've seen a little bit in the news about it. Any thoughts about Proposition 36, maybe kind of supplementing 47?
Well, again, as the ethics of the judicial campaign, right? Carrie, as an attorney, judicial candidates can't take positions on things because that would implicate bias. And so, as I've said over and over now, that law is a case-by-case basis. And in terms of Proposition 36, that is a proposition for the people, and they're going to make their decision on whether they think that reform has gone too far one way or too far another. And, some folks certainly are tired of having to ask for an attendant to open up the case to buy shampoo because there's smash and grabs. And, are these things being heightened by social media? Is it more? Is it less? That's for folks to say. That's what campaigns are for.
True enough. And Canon 5, which is what you're referencing, would be you can't comment on things that are likely to come before you as a judge if you're so blessed to be appointed or elected to the bench.
Correct.
I was just thinking the proposition isn't really coming before you, so I thought I'd get that. But it took almost 13 minutes for you to talk about Canon 5, right?
I do what I can.
Okay, so I won't push you on that one. Anything else that you'd like the listeners to know about you and your campaign?
Just, I appreciate your time. I hope everyone goes to my website, stevenapolitano.com, so that they can compare and contrast all the candidates. Again, what I'm bringing is a diversity of background, diversity of thought and experience to what I plan to do in being on the bench. Again, it's not doing one thing or another. It's having experience as a decision maker, having experience with our communities in LA County and communities across California, and bring that experience as an attorney, administrative law judge, and elected official to the bench.
Well, I so appreciate you, and I'm extending a long handshake. I can't quite reach you, but you get the feeling. I appreciate you coming in so early in the morning. You didn't even complain about that part.
I tried to. Remember?
I did. I did remember that.
And you said, but everybody has to do it.
I wasn't going to tell you.
Here I am.
You told on yourself.
So hopefully I'm awake enough people can understand what I'm saying.
Well, we see that you're honest because you told on yourself just now.
I did.
Would you mind sticking around if we take some calls later on the hour?
Happy to.
Okay, so we'll take a break, and then we're going to set up with the next judicial candidate. That's going to be Lachey Henderson. And we're breaking now on KJLH 102.3 FM. We are you.